Welcome to the Slices of Time Street Photography Podcast, episode 15 already. Today I'm joined by Nicola Fioravanti, an Italian street photographer based in Paris in France, if I'm correct. And I can't help but describe his photos as abstract but still very human and warm feeling. So, hey Nicola, how are you today? And could you maybe introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you so much, Fred, for the invitation. I'm much more, I would say, a colorist rather than a street photographer today.
Mm-hmm.
I'm based in Paris. When I'm saying that I'm much more a colorist, that my work really is mainly on street photography, but it's a constant exploration of the potential of colors in the urban
Mm-hmm.
environment. So basically, I'm a colorist who is living in this beautiful city, which is Paris, and traveling a lot and trying to explore really the different culture of colors. I would say in Europe and in Morocco especially.
Yeah. And do you find a lot of differences in like usage of colors, or like how does that those cultural differences go?
Yes, basically, what I'm interesting is what I think that is really interesting is that each culture has a different perception of color,
Mm-hmm.
and they use the colors in a completely different way. So basically, for example, here in Paris, you have some basic colors, very delicate colors you can see in the city, and they are just perfect within the relationship with the sky, with the blue of the sky, which is never a kind of deep blue. It's just like always a delicate blue, and all the tones are really warm. You have a very long golden light, and so here is everything is truly poetic and delicate, just like Paris. At the same time, for example, in Morocco, that's a country I know quite well. My wife is Moroccan. I have a deep link with this kind of culture. It's completely different because the light is very intense. It's very, very warm. And even if you don't have so long time span where you can work in color, because actually in Morocco you can have more or less 2 hours and a half where you can shoot with the best light condition.
Okay.
In Paris, you can shoot for about 4 hours because the light is keeps to stay longer and longer. While
Yeah.
in Morocco, you have less time in order to do that. At the same time, the perception, the way in which color is lived is completely different because here is a kind of background of the city, while in Morocco is the subject, and it's even the subject for the people there. So basically, it's a completely different way of living and living, truly living with colors. And if you're a colorist like me, it's just heaven in the earth, you know.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I noticed you went to Morocco quite often because you have several projects there. But it makes sense. And I was going to ask like what's your connection to the country, but it makes sense, of course, if your wife is from there. Um, Totally makes sense. Um, because there's quite a lot of work indeed in Morocco, and it feels like you have like this all these series around color, of course, and as if now that you mentioned, like you have the Normandy series and the Morocco series, and the colors do feel like softer or like a bit more saturated between those two. And so you were mentioning about like you have only like 2 hours in Morocco per day and like 4 hours in. Do you have like a specific moment of the day that you prefer to go out then, or?
It's basically in Morocco, or if you go very early in the morning, there is basically no one. So if you wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, I did sometime, just to check if there was any kind of human presence, and there is really nobody. So you can walk in the Medina, but you don't find the human presence, which is always quite important for me. It's
Mm.
not mandatory. I mean, I've taken some of my best shots are without people, but at the same time, if there is someone, it it gives another kind of life
Yeah.
in the photo. I do love to have someone if it's possible, and also I do love the play of waiting the right subject, with the right color, in Morocco with the right hijab, if we're speaking about a woman, an old woman, for example, or the right hair colors,
Mm.
that's actually street photography at its very best. So if you go out very early in Morocco, there is almost no one, and you have to go out in late afternoon, because at the same time, if the light is very intense, you can't find the right colors. Basically, notice
Yeah.
that many unexperienced street photographers, they are just out all the day long. So when it's the good time to shoot, they don't have energy at all. So
Mm.
basically, I'm relaxing all the day long. When I'm doing some important work, perhaps I'm traveling during the first hours of the day. Okay, and then when it's late afternoon, I go out. So
Okay.
and when I go out, I'm working until really the last light. So that's how I do. Basically, it's different because I'm doing professionally. So if you are a professional and you need to deliver, something, it's done in a different way. But I'm
Mm.
not taking the camera all the time, and when I have to work, I just go out with full focus, and we go out, for example, at 5 o'clock, if we are doing spring in Morocco, or even 6 o'clock, and staying until 8 o'clock with the golden light, and then I will usually stay 1 hour and a half after the sunset, in order
Yeah.
to play with the blue light, and in order to play with some artificial light. I don't love so much artificial light. I don't use flash at all, because I love too much natural light to use a flash. And basically, I'm trying to play with the material I'm getting, in when you are working in the situation you are facing.
Yeah. Okay. So you really have like your time of day that you favor, and you mentioned like you do this professionally. So there's like because for a lot of people, I find street photography is more like something like to live of it. There's like very few chances, I think, or like there's for a lot of people it's just like if there's one exhibition once every 3 years, let's say, that's already a lot. So how does that work for you to live off purely of street photography or?
Well, actually, what the problem is that I think that many people, they do think that going out searching for the best shot, it's photography,
Hmm.
which is not at all. So you need to work on project, and you need to at the same time, here in France, it's not easy at all, but at the same time you have many opportunities. You have some art residencies where you get some money, and you can work on your project, at the same time you can do some corporate things, or some commercial things, just like everyone. But at the same time, if you are working on a project, you have the chance, to earn money, with your project. Basically, that's the point. The problem is that almost everyone doesn't understand it. I think, they are basically they go out, they see, oh, okay, I'm trying to get the best shot, you know, just like without finding any kind of narration, and actually without having a project, which surprised me really a lot all the time, because maybe there are some amazing photographers, they have a huge quantity of single photos, but they don't think about, any kind of project. And in this kind of way, I do think that they are not growing well at all, because at the end they don't have nothing, so they are basically maybe sending the photos to some competition. If they earn 1,000 euro, it's okay, but it's just one shot. It's not that they are pursuing, something that they really want, and that's the problem. I mean, that's even the same situation with the exhibition. I'm lucky because I have lots of exhibition all the time. But when I came here in Paris, I did start with a project with cycling, that has a huge success here in France. And I mean, I didn't go here in Paris saying, okay, I'm an artist, I'm a street photographer, I can live with this, I do need to find some ways, to get known here, and then I got to the Festival Plage Contact, which is one of the most important festivals here in France. It's actually the second one after Rencontre d'Arles, and it's very, very important, and that gave me a lot of opportunities. So basically, I do think that if you love really what you are doing, you need to find some way in order to get, the money. It's not easy. It's very, very difficult, but at the same time, it's possible.
Hmm. Okay, yeah. And it sounds to me, you mentioned this at the start of your explanation now, that you're really like thinking into like series, you're like not really, like, single shots are less your thing or your medium. Like, so is that more, I'm not sure if you sell prints, is it more like you like to prefer this entire series because of the narrative you can explain, or
Yes, actually, I do think that if you are working on a project, you're working on yourself.
yeah.
And that's the goal for when you are doing photography, Basically, it's a kind of self-exploration, You are searching, you are trying to understand yourself by shooting photos. So that's, and your relationship with things, your relationship with beauty, your relationship with wonder, your relationship with silence, your relationship with time. You are basically really exploring your connection with everything, is around you. And when you are, for example, exploring something as a project, you are questioning yourself, For example, when I started the Moroccan project, first time I went there, I didn't know that it was with the woman I would have married, after some years, the same time. So at the same time, the project, evolved because basically first time I went there, I was so fascinated by the colors, by the power and the joy of the Moroccan people. Nowadays, I think that I'm exploring much more her memories at the same time,
Okay,
So
yeah.
basically, it's an evolving project, and at the same time, I'm getting more and more Moroccan. So I do understand many things I didn't understand before, and I'm evolving in some way, That's just because of projects, because
Yeah.
you are trying really to understand better a place, but you can do a project about anything you want, you know. At the same time, is also asking you to go out and maybe finding the good shot that you are missing, or thinking about the series a lot. So there is quite a lot of thinking before, going out to shoot. At the same time, when you are out and I'm shooting what I feel. I don't have a plan at all, But at the same time, when you are saying, okay, I would need something about this or something about that, that's basically a different kind of approach. And I do find that this, you know, is helping you to find a little bit more about yourself, and that's the main goal of shooting. Because if not, you are working in a bank or finance, but I don't care at all.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm not
No,
interested in making money.
we all need it, but yeah, it's not often the most fun part of everything. And I like how you said that it's kind of like exploring yourself. Like, to me, that's something I'm exploring, how it's exploring myself at the past few months. So I'm not quite there yet, but you mentioned like it was kind of like you either work on a project and you have like a planned out like place you want to go or something, and you also like just go out and meander and see where you end up, or is it like always kind of like more or less planned out, or how do I?
No, I mean, for example, with the Sentimental Atlas, with the project from Morocco, there, due to the fact that I have several exhibition, and one is ongoing, which is very important because it's a national exhibition. That's the first exhibition that the state of Italy is giving officially to Morocco. And so basically, when, for example, you have a project that you started and you went there already 4 times, and I have a second exhibition in Morocco in December in another national museum in Morocco, and you speak with your curator, In my case, that's a wonderful curator, Daniela Brignone. Is a very well-known Italian curator, and basically I gave her, for example, more or less 500 photos to choose from. She then chose 40 photos for the first exhibition, and then she divided all some categories, So basically, the exhibition is also a travel in Morocco. So you're traveling in 2 ways, during the exhibition. And so basically, for example, when I will go this summer again in Morocco, I will need to add some photos, if in some places I never went there, or maybe add some kind of sea photos or photos about modern architecture in Morocco, for example. So I do have a plan of things I would love to do. I don't know where what I will produce. No idea, and because I never, I just saying, for example, okay, I need to go to that city. I don't know. I need to go a little bit more in that city because I liked a lot. I needed to go there because I had the confidence that that city will give me some shoots, some shots. For example, Casablanca is always giving me a lot of chances. So basically, I'm planning before, and then I will go there. But there is a little plan before, but because you need to have some photos, because you have some important exhibition, and I mean, there is always a plan. If you're doing professionally, I do think there is a little difference, between doing in kind of, for yourself and just going out on Sunday and see, if you are getting something or not. But if you are doing as your job, you need to have some plan, because
Of
that's the
course.
beauty of
Yeah.
doing this kind of project.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. I do. photography professionally, but it's like corporate headshots and events, so it's different. And for me, street photography is like, let's say, a creative outlet or hobby, or it's like there's less thing that have to be, so I don't have to produce anything. But
Yeah.
to me, the question then, because for me it's like it's the inspiration for my corporate work. How do you keep it interesting and fresh to yourself? Because in the end, it turns out to be a job then. And I can imagine like sometimes like everyone has with their job perhaps that it's like not today. How does that happen to you? And are you like, do you have like ways around it or?
No, basically, I know it's hard. It doesn't make me, annoyed. It's never. Basically, I feel the stress sometimes. I'm a little bit stressed, if I need really to produce something. For example, in Deauville last year during the art residencies, it was an amazing situation where you could work with some of the best photographers in the world, and in a very short um, timeline, because basically we could stay there almost for 1 month. I had something to do, and I couldn't stay there all the time, and it was raining all the time, which is very difficult for a colorist. And so basically the series was produced in more or less 12 days or something like this, and so you go out and you know that maybe if it's sunny and there's a beautiful light, you need to get something, so this is stressing you a lot. At the same time, I'm always happy when I'm shooting. So it's not a problem of saying, it's just a kind of day job, and I'm not enjoying it. Some days I'm enjoying all the time. The only problem that maybe if you need really to deliver something, all the time, can be really stressful because it's completely aleatory. I mean, you go out, you don't know what you can get. So, but you know that at the end of the day, you should get something, or interesting.
Yeah, you usually know, yeah, that you can deliver something, but it's as you said, like sometimes you have like rain or the day isn't
Yes,
there.
you don't know.
Uh,
At the same time,
yeah,
when last year we had really to deliver the series, uh, you have no chance. So, I mean, even if it was raining, I was out with my parapluie. In French, I don't know how to say in English. Uh,
umbrella. Yeah,
Umbrella, yes, sorry. Because, the problem with French language is that when you're speaking all the time French, you are losing a lot of English.
yeah.
You know?
I know. I have the same. Like I speak a lot of English as well. I speak a lot of English, so I kind of lose my Dutch sometimes. Or sometimes it's
Okay.
just easier to say the English word instead of the Dutch word. So,
Yeah,
but yeah.
for me it's
So
with French, because basically I'm speaking French all the time,
yeah, I can imagine.
so
Yeah.
that's the problem. But so basically, I I I went out in order to try to create something, to have something, even if it was really heavy raining, So basically, it's a different approach. But I do think that this is something that drives you to some, important places for you at the same time. Uh, I do find it absolutely perfect, just like you, if you have a corporate, you do corporate commercial, these kind of things, and then you say, okay, I do want to have time, for myself, and to grow up, and to artistically, and to find something I would love, even to not to be stressed in order to get, okay, I need to get that kind of shot, that's like all the time during the week. Um, but at the same time, I think that if someone takes it very seriously, it's can be very exciting in some way. So basically, that's what I'm doing. I don't say I don't do anything commercial because it would be false, you know. But at the same time, I'm completely focused on non-commercial things. I don't even care, In fact, nobody sees my commercial things. Basically, I'm not publishing at all. So I don't care, and I'm doing professionally, just like every professional. But I really don't care, at all.
No, I get that, yeah. But you did like have like a series of the what was it, the Dubai Modest Fashion Week?
Yes.
Was that like a commercial job or what? Because
Yes,
it's
was a
like
commercial job, so it was an assignment, and I did choose to actually to shoot the backstage because I find it much more interesting. At the same time, with fashion, it's very, even if I did something in fashion, it's very very complex because if you are not in that kind of world, it's difficult to understand sometimes. So, I mean, I love Paul Smith, the fashion designer, but for example, when I'm seeing something from Balenciaga, for me, it's incredible ugly. I can't understand why people, love this kind of things. So, basically, even if I have some requests from fashion designers, I try to let them go because I don't think I'm really the right person for this kind of things. While I was there, it was an assignment, and I was enjoying a lot because there we had, for example, the series was produced in. I think in 5 years ago, more or less, something like that, and it was shot in 5 hours. So it was
oh, okay.
that 5 hours of shooting.
Okay, so
Nothing.
everything was like within like a few hours. Okay, cool. And did like because it does still feel like your street photography work to me. Does your street work influence your commercial work like this
All the
or yeah?
time, all the time, all the time, because at the end, I think as a street photographer, so my thinking is always, the thinking of a street photographer. So even if on the other project with Fama Velo, with the cycling project,
Yeah, I was gonna ask. Yeah, yeah.
yes, where which is the more commercial things I'm doing, because that's open many contacts in the cycling world, and if- I'm always thinking, even if there is a kind of street portraits, and when I'm taking some portraits of cyclists, I do have sometimes, just 2 minutes, nothing more. I did
Okay,
one
so
shoot.
these aren't models you post
They are
for the fun
basically all
of it.
cyclists.
Okay.
So they are not professional cyclists, but I mean they are all um, they are all really passionate cyclists in Paris. So I know we never thought about searching some models, beautiful models, and saying to them, okay, please take one bike, and I will take a shot with you. That's why Fama Velo got a very very important community approval, because actually it's the cycling community of Paris, basically. That's the subject, the woman, that they are really making the cycling movement in Paris. That's it. But for example, with Farmavelo, that is managed completely by the founder, which is who is Eva Cordioli, is a big friend of mine, another Italian here in Paris, and cycling passionate. And actually, she asked the most important women in cycling here in Paris, would you love to be in this kind of project? And they said, okay, that's fine. But sometimes, for example, Lauriane, that's the girl who was in the cover of the first exhibition à la mairie du 7e arrondissement. I had just I think 20 seconds with her, almost
Oh
nothing.
wow, okay.
So I took 14 photos, and that's it. But the girl who lasted longer was, I think, 5 minutes. So
Also not too long, yeah.
yeah, so basically, you need to think just like a street photographer, because you see something, you see some potential walls, for example, you see some potential elements in the background, and then you are just trying to take the photos as natural as possible.
Yeah, yeah.
So basically, I never say to the models, okay, look at there or on the other side, just be natural, look at me, or look where you want,
Yeah.
and I will try
And
to catch the moment.
because there's like you have Alexander, it's like a very nice photo with like the light falling in. It's really like it looks really well thought out. But at the same time, it also feels like very street because it's like those are the spots we street photographers look for. And like, did you know those spots in advance, or was it more
No,
like, okay, we're here,
no, I asked
there looks good?
every cyclist to give me their favorite place. So basically, for example, Lauriane, she told me, okay, I love the 11th arrondissement because that's my life is there. So I went to where she asked. Okay, I didn't know that I know the 11th small, but I didn't know exactly the spot she wanted. And at the same time, when I go there, I say, okay, maybe it doesn't work, And so I'm just working a little bit with the cyclist to find some good spot, But I never plan in advance. So basically, I'm going there and trying to see some potential, and I just love it in the way it's a very free way of working, not planning anything in advance because I don't have even Flash, so I don't know nothing before, I go there because I wanted all the cyclists to have a connection with the place in some way. Okay, so maybe for example, or for example, Angèle, she loved Bois de Boulogne. That's the last photos of the series, and because she loves gravel cycling, and she told me I really want to be in a little bit natural situation. So I told myself I in this kind of natural background I can work just with a really really last light. So I asked her really to come at maybe 8 o'clock, really near, the sunset, because I imagine myself, okay, if I have intense light, there doesn't work at all, because I want this kind of fairy, situation to in the picture. So basically, just to the point, you think as a street photographer, and without planning anything, in advance. At the same time, you want the cyclist to be to feel well in this kind of place.
Yeah,
Don't
to have
put
it there. Yes,
someone
their spots.
who loves nature, loves gravel cycling. À La Défense, where you have skyscrapers, huge, urban situation which is not
Yeah.
connected, to the cyclist at all.
No, it makes total sense. Yeah, and it's also it gives a lot of different like backgrounds, which is nice because like you have these like with Alexander, it's like a gritty kind of I don't know, like tunnel or a wall at least, and you have like these very colorful graffiti walls, and then of course you have the nature ones. Um,
And it's
and
also an
so,
exploration of the city, because at the same
exactly, yeah.
time, you do have an exploration about how the cyclists are, what the cyclists are wearing today. So it's a little bit fashion. At the same time, you see how the city is changing because of cycling. Because here in Paris, there is a really, we call it Vélorution, a kind of revolution with cycling. It's with Helsinki. There are the two cities that they are investing more in cycling in all the world. So basically, there's a huge cycling revolution here, and so basically, you see how the city is developing thanks of cycling. At the same time, you see how the women are what the women are wearing, how it's changing their kind of equipment, everyday equipment, because every cyclist, you have seen in the project, she's using her bike all the day, each day of the year. So basically, everyone is really, really passionate, and they are changing. They have their favorite brands. They are very passionate about their bike. So there's a story, a kind of relationship between their bike and the owner of the bike. So that's really, really very interesting. At the same time, you see how Paris is developing and discovering new places, new graffiti, new artworks. Is a kind of special connection with the city.
Yeah, it's a really strong series, I find. And so you mentioned with nature in the background, especially that you think about like, okay, I can have it more darker. We can have it at that time of day. Do you get a lot of your inspiration from other photographers, or is it just like experience, or like a mix, of course, of those two? Um,
I don't think, actually, I have a lot of inspiration from other photographers, to be honest. It's much more from other things. I do think that I do learn more with architecture, with graphic design, and rather than photography. Because I have some photographers I love, of course, just like everyone, my favorite photographers. At the same time, I do find a lot of repetition today. So basically, because they are basically, try to copy things. So it's not anymore a kind of exploration, of the photographer itself. And I do find that today we have an excellent photographers. I do find that there are a lot of photos, less photography than before, maybe, at the same time.
yeah, okay, I can see what you're trying to
you
say.
know,
Yeah,
in some way. But if I'm not inspired, I'm not trying to, okay, I just grab a book about my favorite photographer and will get some ideas. It's never like this, I prefer to look at graphic design or a kind of light, because I do think that the inspiration, at least for me, comes from light and silence. So basically, for me, it's the interplay between, from silence to light, from light to silence. That's the way. When I'm shooting, I'm trying to find the moment of silence. And if I see a beautiful architecture, a beautiful wall, a beautiful light, that's the inspiration. The inspiration comes from light, at least for me. Maybe for others too, but at the same time, I do search the light. more than other things. If I have a bad day, just like everyone, I don't say okay, go to a bookshop and to buy some new photography books. Never. I just focusing on the light, and asking light why I'm not able to catch you in the proper way today. Why it's so difficult today to discover this kind of wonder. And if I'm able to catch the light, but I'm not able to catch the silence. I do ask the silence, why you are so difficult today. That's a kind of play, with this kind of two elements, which I do think are the most important elements in my photography: light
Yeah.
and silence.
And to me, that's like, I don't see, like, if you're based in Paris. If you ask me to describe Paris, silence is not the first or like top 10 words that comes to me. So
Yes.
um, is it hard for you to find the silence in the city, or is it more accessible than we think?
No, because it's silence within you.
Okay.
So basically, it's impossible to find silence in Paris. Pure silence. I mean, where no one is speaking, which is something I love, because I love cities where people are talking and are crying and they are doing many things. I don't like at all Berlin, for example. Which everybody is not speaking at all.
I
So I
like Berlin, but I get what, yeah, it's totally different
Yes,
cities.
a
Yeah.
completely different, situation. But basically, you should find your silence. I mean, I do think that good photography is when you see a photo and you are in silence and you can't speak. And if you can speak for 2 seconds, it's a good photos. It's a good photo. If you can speak for 5 seconds, it's a very good photos. And if you can speak for 1 minute, it's an extraordinary photo. So basically, I judge, the my photos on silence. On the silence, I do need, before speaking. If it's something, that keeps me in the photos, on the photos, it works. And there is a kind of really, how would I say, is a kind of search of this kind of moment of silence, when you can have hundreds of people, talking, moving around, but maybe you find the right light spot, with good subject, and you have a connection with that kind of subject in that moment, which is unique. It will fade in 1 millisecond, and this is a little time of silence, and I do find that, and I do hope also that in my photography there is a kind of interplay from silence to light, from light to silence,
Yeah. No, it's now you mentioned it's like all your photos feel silent. Yeah, it's hard to explain it differently, but it's like it's not too busy. It's very calming. It's very well, don't think comfortable is the right word, but it's there's like a quietness to it, indeed. Yeah, and it's now that you mentioned it, I I find more, and it's also funny that you mentioned like the how you said like if you're quiet for 1 second, for 5 seconds, for 10 minutes, or for 1 minute. It's now that you mentioned it's like I do that subconsciously. Yeah, so it's if I and I should be more conscious of it. Like if I see someone else's work, and it's like how long am I silent and taking it in to appreciate how good it is. Yeah, so I like that. That's a good insight. Um, and so you mentioned like waiting for the right subject. Are you more of a like it's the fisher and the hunter kind of thing? Are you like a patient person for it, or are you like more or less constantly on the move?
I do wait ab- about 5 minutes if I do think that is a potential great photo. Never more. Because if nothing is coming, for me it means that someone else is giving you something better around the corner. So I'm not the guy who think, okay, this is going to be an amazing photo, and I'm staying there 40 minutes. No, maximum 5 minutes. That's how I do think that you have also to keep a kind of rhythm. That is something really central, and I do think that is really underrated as a concept, because when you go there and you go out and you need to do street photography, you need to be in the same rhythm of with the city. If not, you are not getting the right rhythm. You have a rhythm with the city. You have to be in tune with the city and in tune with yourself. But basically, if you don't shoot you for about 3 hours, then can be very difficult to take the perfect shot after 3 hours. Okay, so basically, I'm trying to keep a kind of rhythm. So I also should take some photos. I do think they are maybe a little bit more than mediocre. I'm not just taking what I'm thinking. Okay, this has to be the most beautiful, photo in the world. And if this is going to help me for the rhythm, is okay.
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of keeping the habit and like the
You know,
reflex ready. Yeah.
Exactly, just like, rhythm, 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 rhythm. And then, sometimes you discover good photos you have taken and you didn't think, okay, it's okay or not, because I'm never looking back at the screen, I've just the screen completely blacked out when I'm
Hmm.
working, and I never look at the screen after the shoot, So I'm just taking photos, and I'm just looking at photos when I'm back home.
Yeah. Okay. And
I'm a little
is it?
bit analog photographer. I mean, even if I'm shooting digital, only
Yeah,
digital,
yeah, yeah.
and I also don't crop.
Never. Okay.
Never,
Wow, that's
never cropped
impressive.
any picture of mine.
That's impressive.
So
That's
never cropped. I don't crop at all. So basically, all my analogical, friends are always telling me you need to go to analogic photography because you are basically, an analogic photographer, working in digital.
yeah. And like just curious, like why don't you then go to analog? Is it still the
It's too
practicality?
expensive, just
It's too
for this
expensive.
reason.
Yeah.
And I don't have
And
Kodachrome.
okay.
If they are doing again in Kodachrome, I think I could start doing something analogical, But today the films I don't have the film I would have loved to work with, because I
Okay.
started photography when it was already digital. So basically, I don't have any experience with analogical photography, But if one day Kodak decide to give us back the Kodachrome, I think I could switch at least a
Yeah.
little bit, with analogic photography.
Okay. And is it like do you edit your photos to look like the Kodachrome stock, or is it
No,
more?
in fact, I don't edit them almost at all. I'm completely unable to do good processing, So basically, I'm doing just two things. I'm putting profile colors in Adobe
Mhm.
Vivid, and then I'm making medium contrast, and that's it.
Okay.
So I did some YouTube videos showing the edit and with some friends of mine, and he was a little bit astonished because he told me, Nicola, you are doing really nothing, But because I do think that if you are really great in editing photos, you can do amazing things. But if you don't have this kind of talent, just like me, that I'm really horrible in doing post processing, you need to find the best photo before, you know. So basically, I'm doing almost nothing. I love a lot the colors that the Canon cameras are giving to me. That's why I'm very really keen to use this kind of brand, because I also did some tests with other brands, but the result doesn't look me as good as Canon with colors, you know. At the same time, if you are very good in post processing, you can get a Nikon or a Sony camera or a Fujifilm camera and getting exactly the same result, you know. But you need to be able to use all this kind of color correction, these kind of things, you know,
Yeah.
completely unable to do these kind of things.
Is it because you just don't find it interesting? Like you don't enjoy sitting at a computer, or
Color grading is very difficult. I mean, you need to have a lot of culture about colors, you know, and I do think it's very difficult to do. I don't think that I'm good enough to be a great color grader, you know, basically. So I found a brand which gives me exactly the colors I love, you know, and I do add the contrast with line curves, and that's it. You know, basically, and if I'm doing something is only about the highlights, doing some contrast, but really, 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 very, very, very little things. You see my rows; they are basically the same things about the
okay,
original.
that's cool. And um, do you enjoy the process of picking the photos? Like, because you mentioned like sometimes you just like make photos because to keep the rhythm in. So I'm sure there's you have a big catalog of photos. Is it like a process you enjoy doing, like going through them and saying like, okay, these
Yes,
two work together,
yes,
or
yes, I love it. Basically, you know, because there you are also developing a kind of storytelling when, even if my photos, you know, don't contain stories. I mean, they are a kind of basically they are made up of shapes, colors. Then you can find your story. I mean, you know, everyone is creating stories when they look to photographs. At the same time, I don't think okay, I'm doing this kind of photos because there is a story behind. You know, sometimes there are very incredible stories, just like the first photos of the Morocco Sentimental Atlas, because the story of that cloud is absolutely amazing. I think that's maybe the only time, you know, in the life that I can get this kind of amazing story, because there is a reason why that photo opens the exhibition. And that I took, the reason is amazing, because I took that photo in Rashidia. We are near the desert in Morocco, in the east part of Morocco, really, really near the desert. And I took because there is this kind of single cloud, you know, exactly in the middle. That was the only reason I took, to be honest. You know, there was a perfect geometry. I told myself, oh, wow, it's very rare to see a single cloud in the desert, basically, you know, when you are really very, very close to the desert. And that's it. Then I published in Instagram, and I started getting a lot of comments and direct messages from people from El Rashidia, talking, okay, I'm really crying with your photos. And I told myself, but it's not a kind of photo that makes you crying in any way. And I started asking why they were crying. And they told me, you know the story of that place? And I told them, no, not at all. Actually, it's an open place that was a place where the people could do the Salat al-Hada, which is a prayer, very important prayer in the Muslim world, just like a little bit the Easter in the Christian world. And they found someone dead in that kind of place, in the kind of open place, more or less 6 months before I took the photo. And so they repainted in white half of the wall because they told themselves, okay, if I'm repainting with a kind of color of purity, is a kind of hopes that something beautiful will come again in this kind of place. And then the place was almost abandoned after the tragic event. When people found the photo, they thought that the soul of the dead one was the cloud asking them to come back. And so I have photos of people coming back to that place for the first time because of the photo.
That's very nice. Yeah.
So even so I took it without knowing anything about the accident. I took it without knowing anything about the story, why they repainted the wall in white. I know it is not universal because it's something that could be perceived just in Rashidia. It is not even no the Morocco country, because you have different cultural difference in Morocco as in every other country, in the world. But at the same time, it's a photo that contains something. If you see people that are sending you a snapshot when they are back to that place for the first time after the accident because of your photo. Uh, so I do not search for stories, but at the same time, photos in some way contain some kind of stories.
Yeah. That's a nice one. I think it's sometimes it shows that sometimes you find these stories by accident. You don't see them yourself maybe, then you publish it, and all of a sudden it's like, now it makes sense why I made this photo. So I think that's a very very interesting story. I think so. It makes a lot of sense why you use it as an opener for the exhibition then. So yeah, I suggest we start wrapping it up before we get too long, because I think we can keep going for about editing and
Yes.
the lots of colors in your photos and the love for Morocco. I think for a long time. So thank you, Nicola, for your time and insights. There's a lot of insights I'll remember for sure. If anyone wants to follow Nicola, I'll put his links in the description, so like links to Instagram and the website. I'm not sure if you're on any other social media.
No, and I also hate Instagram. So basically, if you need to contact me, just send me an email.
Yeah,
I don't check it almost at all. I don't like, it's awful social network.
I can agree. Yeah, I have a love hate relationship with it, and it's like in periods. So now I'm like, I think I'm getting back up to love, but it'll take
No,
some
it's
time
not
again.
anymore, a place for photographer.
Sorry?
It's not anymore a place for a photographer. That's the problem of Instagram, because
No.
basically, I do use it to be in connection with photographers
Exactly. Yeah.
and to meet beautiful people like you. You can't know if you are in Paris and you're in Belgium or in the United
Yeah.
States or Nigeria, this kind of Mexico. But at the same time, it's really horrible because, this is not. It's completely useless. I mean, you're showing up something that almost nobody sees, and the company behind is horrible, and so it's everything. I really hate. At the same time, it's the only platform. You don't have any,
Yeah.
you know.
There is some good use for it, but it takes a lot of like, you have to be like very intentional of, this is what I want, this is what I'll get, and it's not likes, but as you said, like it's keeping contact with other photographers. For me, that's the value of it. Probably other platforms could work as maybe as well, but yeah, But it's like
You
you
don't
really have to be like, today I'm going
don't
to
have,
connect.
the right people. Also because maybe, you publish something because you want a feedback from some followers, you really love, or you do appreciate when you publish something that you say, okay, it's mediocre, but as a huge success, or I use it as a kind of feedback, first feedback from the audience. That's the one use, and to keep in connection with other photographers. At the same time, for example, I can't publish all the photos because if I'm publishing everything, nobody goes to the exhibition. So for example, for the exhibition in Palermo, I had a lot of unpublished photos there. So it must be, in some way,
Yeah, it's
you need
you
to
have to
keep the
tease
secret in
people
some
to,
way,
yeah,
before publishing everything. So
exactly.
I'm publishing really almost nothing. I don't like using it. I hope that good platform will come. I'm always seeing signing up for a new platform, in search, or the good one. The problem is really that you don't have photographers there.
No.
So I don't need, someone who say to me, okay, your photo is good, because I maybe, I think I can't judge already if is a good shot or not, but I do need, if I have some better photographers than me, who can say, okay, Nicola, I like where you are going, or I don't like where you are going, or why you're taking that kind of direction, why you are doing this, or that's this kind of dialogue, which is very
Yeah.
interesting for me, and the problem that you have other platforms, but you don't have photographers there.
No, exactly. So yeah, it's a love-hate relationship for me. So thank you, Nicola. I'll put the link for your Instagram anyway, sorry, and your website in the description. So make sure to follow his fantastic work because it's really beautiful. Also make sure to follow the podcast on your favorite platform, or follow me for updates. My social media will also be in the show notes. All info, all the links to everything mentioned will be in the show notes. So thank you, Nicola, and see you in
Thank
the
you.
next episode.
Thank you. Thank you so much.